Hello, everyone, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk, and a very special welcome to Nana. My name is Mike Xxl. We have an incredible show for you today. We're going to ask some really hard-hitting questions about Star Wars. Are there too many characters in Infinity War? And Harry Potter is running drugs. You heard me correctly. Look at this incredible panel we have joining us today. First up, Miss Wendy Lee. How are you, Wendy?
I'm doing great. Hi, Nana. I feel like the pressure is on because she's watching. I got to be like really, really good today.
Yeah, the Nana we're referring to is in the Nemiroff family, and here representing Nana is Perri.
I don't know how I would do this every day without support from a Nana. Seriously, though, I love you, Nana. I'm happy you're watching the show.
Oh, so
Love you,
cute.
Nana. Happy you're watching the show. Sorry you got in a bar fight last week, but I'm glad you came out on top. John Rocha, you've been in a few bar fights, haven't you?
I have. Nana, what's up? What's up? Wishing you all the best for a speedy recovery. Get back on your feet. Let's go bar hopping.
It's just, you're just dripping jealousy because you heard that Nana said the host of Movie Talk was pretty handsome, and she necessarily didn't say anything about you.
I have texts from Perri Nemiroff saying Nana Nems likes me.
She did say something nice about Rocha, too.
Okay.
I swear.
Little Latin flavor is always good.
Nana's a big Collider fan overall, and she loves everybody.
She likes that outlaw because Nana's a big fan of Westerns. Well, a movie that did very well in the West, but not necessarily the East, is Star Wars The Last Jedi. We're kicking off with the curious case of its performance at the Chinese box office. It was not the movie the Chinese audiences were looking for. Episode 8 of the Skywalker Saga tanked at the Chinese box office, debuting to a disappointing $28.7 million its opening weekend. And then it had one of the worst second weekend declines in Chinese box office history. It was a 92% drop. And so The Last Jedi's already been pulled from Chinese theaters, this is according to The Hollywood Reporter, and it could end up taking in less than $50 million in the country. To compare that with other Star Wars films of recent memory, $124 million was the total haul for The Force Awakens, and Rogue One was $69 million. We go to Nana's granddaughter, Perri Nemiroff, our own box office expert. Perri, the obvious question is, what is going on in China, or what is going on in the Star Wars universe that these two didn't click?
I can't say that I'm so surprised to see that it's not performing well there, just because I think both Force Awakens and Rogue One came in below expectations with not nearly as much money as they traditionally make in the States and in some other countries. And it's really interesting when you read this report, because it's not just about The Last Jedi not performing well, and don't worry, we'll get them next time. This is a Star Wars problem in China, and a lot of these reports cite the fact that the original trilogy, it was not theatrically released there, and there is no denying. I mean, it's why we have shows like Jedi Council. There are so many fun, intricate details that when you watch and rewatch the previous films, when you read the books and all this other stuff, that all builds up to what you see in these films. So when you don't have that kind of connection to the material that came before it, when you have a reveal, like one of the examples that I read in one of these articles was the reveal of Luke Skywalker at the end of Force Awakens. If somebody does not just necessarily know who the character is, but not know that whole journey he went on to get to that point in his life, it's not gonna mean anything. So I think that this could spell trouble for the final installment of the Skywalker Saga, but it could be a blessing in disguise, because this trend forces Disney to take Star Wars in a new direction, and maybe new directions that opens it up to people who weren't already fans, to new cultures, to new ideas, all sorts of things, and that part sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, Wendy, do you agree with Perri that this is less a Last Jedi specific issue and it's more just an overall Star Wars just not clicking in China?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm pulling from my own experience. So my dad, luckily I have like a nerdy dad, so he showed me Star Wars when I was young. Therefore, I fell in love with it, and my aunt showed it to me again. So I was very lucky in that sense. But when Episode 3 came out, I was actually visiting back home in Taiwan, and we went to see it in theater. We were so excited. It was like the global release, so we went. And the theater wasn't even half full. Not even for granted, it's a prequel. Say what you want about the prequels, okay? Whether you like them or not, as a Star Wars fan, I feel like you should go and see it either way to support. And there was not a lot of people in the theater, and I kind of like, is this like a thing, Dad? And he's like, it's just not that big here. And then the next thing I found out, and I think this is where another problem lies, is the language barrier. So you're translating the English script into Chinese subtitle. And sometimes that translation doesn't always translate well. So there was a point where I was listening to the dialogue and reading the subtitle, and I laughed out loud because it was so off. And these names, like you're think about trying to translate Rey into like a Chinese word to make it sound like cool, like, and she's a Jedi, and then all this, and I was trying to read back and forth, and I kind of confused myself in this, and I was like, well, what's happening right now? Like, what I know of the story and what is saying on the subtitle isn't what I know, so I think that's also a big issue.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It is what it is in terms of. These other films, like Valerian, did better in China. Fast and Furious does better in China. Geostorm did better in China. So what are we talking about here? The thing is the heritage is not there. The cultural legacy is not there. They didn't get the original trilogy till 2015. So you haven't built it up through generations. That's the thing about Star Wars that is the selling point. It is multi-generational. You pass it on, father to daughter, father to son, all that through the culture. And so if it's not already built in, it's tough to have this desire to go. Now, they say that they went to see Force Awakens curiosity to see what it was, right? Oh, it first released, great. Then they went back for Rogue One because of Donnie Yen and because of Jai Wang. I think I'm saying that right. But in this, they had Kelly Marie Tran. Kelly Marie Tran is Vietnamese. Mm-hmm. So maybe there is a difference in terms of connecting to that. So maybe that could have factored in. And it also could be that it's just not the taste for Chinese people. And that's okay too, because a lot of these films that do so well in China, they don't do so well domestically. I'm sure they'd exchange $600 million domestic box office over the $125 million they make in China. There's a balance here that has to be made. It's still $1.3 billion it's made. So maybe it doesn't connect with China, but that should be okay. It just isn't their taste.
But you're going to tell me that that's the reason for a $70 million discrepancy is just curiosity for Force Awakens because it hadn't been in theaters in so long? I mean, look, like Wendy talked about, she saw Revenge of the Sith in Taiwan. That was 10 years before The Force Awakens,
right,
and it was still a half-empty theater. So it seems like it is a disconnect from Star Wars in general, and maybe the dialogue issue is to factor in because you look at movies like Transformers and The Fast and the Furious and Geostorm, I dare say dialogue isn't quite as important to those movies as it is to Star Wars, and everybody knows I love Star Wars, but I don't think that this is a Last Jedi specific case. However, Perri, we do have to account for that $70 million. Do you agree with Rocha that it was a curiosity factor 2 years ago that just doesn't exist now?
I think it might have been part curiosity and also the fact that maybe people splurged on movie tickets for two movies that didn't really do it for them. They couldn't really connect to. And then, I could see why after those two, they might not go to see Last Jedi. Another thing that, because you brought up Fast and Furious, these articles also cite maximal ease of access. So another franchise that was in a similar position was Fast and Furious, where certain movies were not released theatrically there, but you could really jump into any Fast and Furious movie, get what's going on, have some fun with it. Same exact thing happened with the Jurassic Park franchise, and Jurassic World crushed there. So I think that the big issue here is just the requirement that comes with having to know exactly what. I mean, look at what we do here all the time. It is vital to these movies and that continuing excitement here that we spent how long between Force Awakens and Last Jedi theorizing. It is such a part of that experience of going to see a new Star Wars movie. Imagine if we just ripped all that out, then would we even be as excited to see a movie like Last Jedi?
And really, you can speculate if you can handle it. That's what Mike Xxl will tell you. I think that the Fast and Furious movies are easy to translate. You really just need to worry about one word: family. As long as you can get that into Chinese, everybody's going to get what you're going for. But it does beg the larger question, Wendy. Why is The Last Jedi not performing nearly as well as The Force Awakens here in America? Was it just because it was such a cultural reawakening that we got 2 years ago? Is it the quality of the movie?
I honestly think fan theory got in the way of that a little bit. Everybody, from The Force Awakens, immediately their shirts, what is the Snoke theory? We're all joking about Jar Jar being Snoke, and all this theory built up, and then everybody goes and see this movie, and they see what happens at the end of this movie, and what they would have liked to see happen did not happen. There were a lot of dreams that were crushed, and I had some of my own theories that was completely out of the window. I was and my theory was so ridiculous because that's the direction that Rian Johnson chose. So whether or not and I think a lot of people, because of that, it turned them off from the movie. A lot of people didn't like the ending of the movie as well.
See, I got to disagree with that a little bit for this reason. It's because, Rocha, I think that people would want to go see The Last Jedi again and again. I mean, what this movie did the first time I saw it, I said, I need to see this again because there's so much in here that I need to emotionally unpack. I need to watch this and process it again and again and again. Why did other fans not feel the same way?
I think some fans were turned off by the exact same thing that Wendy's bringing up. You create these theories, create these ideas, you go, and then they don't come to fruition and you get upset. And I do think as we talked about on one of our recaps or discussions about this film, I think the way that they did it was kind of insulting to some of the fans. I get why they made the decisions they made, and I actually applaud them for being ballsy and gutsy rather, and making these decisions and making these changes. I respect it. But some of the moves were disrespectful to the fans. The throwing the lightsaber over the shoulder, the whole idea with the blue milk.
Yeah, see that part got me too. I'm sorry. Like when they did it, and I liked the movie, but when he did that, I was like, really?
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. Like these little moments that they chose tacks that were a bit insulting to the fans who really enjoy breaking these things down and coming up with these theories. And I'm not saying that you have to cater to these people and their theories, but I am saying you have to respect the fact that you understand you created this idea and this base of people that want to speculate, and you drop little nuggets through all your social media that gets people excited, and drop little nuggets through interviews that gets people excited to want to theorize about what might happen in the film. When you remove that, or you insult the people who are doing this, who are your base, then they're going to react by not going to see your movie multiple times. And there were numerous instances throughout the whole movie where they did things in a way that were a bit dismissive. Instead of you could have done the lightsaber thing in a different way. He could have looked at it passionately and just been like, I can't. And there's the difference. And instead of going, screw it. And then you'd be like, what did you just do? So there's little things like that but there's so much amazing things in the movie that that for not to go back see it more than once, I think you're robbing yourself of a fantastic film and an experience. That's my belief.
I don't think a lightsaber toss over the shoulder is the reason for $1 billion dip in the box office. I mean, it might be.
So what you're saying is every reason we come up with, you just disagree with.
No,
because you disagree with every reason we've come up with, and I think it's not. I think it is.
Here's the actual reason. I think people look at the fan score. I think people just looked at the fan score. Oh, you think it's that? Yeah.
Really?
I think a lot of people looked at the fan score and said, well, I don't need to see this, or I can see it once and then I'm good with it. I think that there was a lot of disappointment with some fans watching it, and that's why it didn't cross over. But there is some money that gets lost because this isn't Han and Chewie saying, Han saying, Chewie, we're home. It wasn't that. It wasn't that,
yes.
Hey, the entire band's back together. What an incredible thing that we never thought was going to happen.
Agreed.
Once The Force Awakens comes out, we know we're getting sequels again. So everybody takes a little bit of a breath. So you're never going to see The Force Awakens again. You're never going to see a movie event like that again, in my opinion. And then I think you couple that with the fact that the Rotten Tomatoes score was right here for critics, but was way down here for fans. I think that does turn a lot of people off. Is Nana a fan of Star Wars?
She is a fan of Star Wars. The whole family is. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint any one thing with this and say, this is the reason it's so different. I think it's just an accumulation of all these things. The idea of Last Jedi not having Force Awakens, oh my God, we haven't seen a Star Wars movie in so long kind of appeal. And then, the polarizing opinion here is a very real thing, because I'm sure there's folks out there who didn't like Force Awakens, but it didn't happen to this extent with that movie. So I would like to imagine that more people wanted to see that movie multiple times, whereas, maybe you have someone like me who really did love The Last Jedi, and I went and saw it 4 times, and I was thrilled to see it 4 times. And then there's folks out there who saw it the first time, they didn't like it and didn't want to see it again. Nothing wrong with taking that approach either, but I think it's the fact that we have a distinct 2 different groups there, and the group that doesn't see it again is really going to affect that overall number, because movies don't make that all-time chart in like the top 10 in that kind of range, even though this one wound up doing that. I think what is it, number 1 for 2017 domestic and worldwide. But when you're talking about hitting Force Awakens kinds of numbers, you need just the masses, the biggest group imaginable, to see this movie more than once. And I don't think that's happening.
The real interesting thing is going to be, how does Episode 9 do? And I think Disney might change their entire marketing strategy in China. I'm not sure how much they put behind it, if they put as much energy behind it or money behind it in China as they did with The Force Awakens. But I think they're going to have to take a long, hard look at that. And sorry to disprove anybody's theory that it might be getting paid by Disney, because you do have to admit, when you see these numbers, Star Wars The Last Jedi was disappointing in relation to The Force Awakens box office. And I think that has a lot to do with the fans just not enjoying the movie as much. And it did tank in China. It is the worst performing big budget movie in China since, prepare yourselves, the Lone Ranger.
No.
All right, swallow that. Now we're going to get on to a happier story. Well, it's at least happy in the sense of this is going to be a party that the fire marshal might have to close. That is the amount of characters that are going to be appearing in Avengers Infinity War. It's going to be the culmination of 18 movies over the course of 10 years. It will introduce Thanos as the villain to end all villains, we hope. Directors Joe and Anthony Russo have assembled the biggest group of Marvel characters ever to appear on screen thus far, and the fans are ready. So how many comic book characters will appear? There's no exact number yet, but there's been reports it was more than 60, and now, according to Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth, the number is actually 76. Speaking with Post Media recently, Hemsworth said, "This is one of the biggest things in film history, and to be a part of it was just incredible. I think what these characters are about to face with Thanos, there's been nothing quite like it. There are 76 cast members or something like that." So I don't think 76 is a hard and fast number here. But Wendy, is 76 characters? I'm excited for Infinity War. Is 76 cramming too many of these beloved comic book characters into one movie?
I'm excited for Infinity Wars too, but this 76 is a lot of character to cram into a movie. It's like Rocha and his 70 friends jamming into a movie theater. There's just, what I'm worried about is there's just going to be so much to focus on, and you're trying to give everybody a bit of camera time and fit them into the story. And granted, we've seen the Russo brothers do it very well in Civil War, and we've seen what my favorite thing about Civil War was them bringing in Black Panther and him not having a standalone movie beforehand. His first introduction into the MCU was in that movie, and I thought they did it phenomenally. But 76 characters is so much, and I don't want this story that we finally come down to Infinity War to have it all just blow up in your face because it's overcrowded.
Yeah, Perri, do you think it's going to be overcrowded? Is 76, does that number hit your ear right?
It's hard not to hear a number like 76 and then fantasize about Infinity War possibly being just an excuse to be like, look at all these characters we've given you over the past few years, and now they're going to be all together, so you should come see this really cool movie. That does make me a little concerned, but we are talking about a Russo's brother movie, and look at what they did, going from First Avenger to Winter Soldier to Civil War, and how they added more and more characters. And with Civil War, you pointed it out, Wendy, I think they did a really good job of incorporating folks like, let's say Ant-Man and Spider-Man, where we got just enough of them. 76 is a big number compared to what we saw in that, but I would be shocked if the Russo brothers, and that's if 76 is actually accurate. That sounds like an estimate to me, given how I read the quote. I don't know, what kind of tone he had on that sentence, but that sounds like he's estimating that number. But if the Russo brothers are at the helm of this film and they decide to put exactly 76 characters in it, I am inclined to trust them just because they haven't steered me wrong yet.
You as trusting as Perri, Rocha?
76 is not enough. I don't subscribe to the less is more theory. I really don't. This is ridiculous. There's so many incredible characters in the Marvel Universe. Throw them all in there. I'm happy that it's 76. I wish he said 100. And remember, this is the thing. This is 1 and 2. He's not talking about just 1. He's talking about 1 and 2 because they were shot at the same time. So all of these things have been shot about. So 76 makes sense because there are going to be changes. There are going to be different characters going to come in. The whole idea, are the original Guardians of the Galaxy going to, the Stallone's crew going to show up, right? There's rumors about Yondu. There's rumors about them messing with the time. So Red Skull could show up. Well, who are the characters from the other? So if you break down Thor, just those 3 movies, break down Captain America, break down all these different, there's so many different characters within their universes.
Ragnarok gave us a lot of new characters.
Yeah,
too.
Ragnarok did as well. And Spider-Man Homecoming. How many of those characters?
Yeah, we
from
hear
his high
some of the
school?
classmates might show up.
Right, and Black Panther, we haven't seen yet how many of those people from Black Panther are going to be. So there's so many universes that we still haven't watched or we've just recently experienced that all these characters may pop in. It doesn't mean they're going to get like significant amount of screen time, but they're going to show up. And 76 characters, there's probably 76 people in every one of these Avengers movies as actors. 76 actors playing parts. So 76 superheroes or villains or whatever, I'm super excited. Thanos' crew, it can't just be those 4 people. There's other people roaming around. So there's going to be a lot. And to me, I think you're right. I trust the Russo brothers to handle this situation perfectly fine. 100 would have been great, but I'll take 76 for now. Because you know what? We fit in the theater for 70, me and my friends. So 76 on the screen is great too.
You want 1 character for each of your friends.
That's right. We're going to gravitate.
So
choose your own adventure.
But you're going to have 76 characters. Some that might just be like classmates or something like that. But as far as an actual fight scene goes, because Scarlett Johansson was quoted on a late night talk show a few months ago as just saying that there's a battle scene between 32. Then I heard that number got up to 40. Oh. Is 42 many for John Rocha in one fight scene?
No, how many were in the airport scene?
It was like
15,
20. Yeah.
20, 15. And that wasn't enough. So I'm 42 I'm fine with it because I imagine that's not going to be on the same terrain. There'll be different battlefields going on at the same time, or different areas of the battlefield. When you go watch any war film, there is hundreds of soldiers, thousands of soldiers fighting on one battlefield. So you're going to find me different battles, and that makes sense to me. 42 is not a lot, actually, and once you're breaking it down and you do camera shots, camera cuts, and all the editing, it's going to work great.
You as confident as Rocha, Wendy, with the battle scenes?
I mean, after he said what he said, like, they're not all going to be, like, say, dropped in one airport together. Right. It makes sense. And I started thinking about it. We'll have Doctor Strange and we'll have the Guardians. So we'll be in space and we'll be in whatever portal that
Wakanda. We're fighting all over the place.
Yeah, it's going to be everywhere. And I am excited to kind of see this insane giant battle scene play out. And if there's anything we've learned from the very first Avengers movie, and when there were 6, 7 characters, and how Joss Whedon did the whole bringing basically comic strip fight scene to life on screen. I'm ready to see that again. I love the airport scene, so still a little worried, but also excited.
Yeah, Perri, I stopped drinking Diet Coke at the movies because I got tired of having to go to the bathroom 90 minutes into every flick. When I heard Justice League was only going to be 2 hours, I was like, no, Justice League is a movie. I could see that for 4 hours. How long do you think is too long for the Infinity War runtime?
That's a really good question. And before I answer that, it's also a good point you make about, I think when he gave these quotes, he was specifically talking about Infinity War. But when you think about it from an actor's perspective, especially if they're shooting them back to back, maybe it's all mushed together, and that number could have just been mushed together between the two films, which makes a little more sense and seems a little more realistic to me. So if that is the case, and this 76 number is more representative of how many characters we're going to see over the course of the two movies, and then I go back to your question about time, I would be shocked if we would get an Infinity War movie that was less than 2.5 hours. I mean, we just saw Maze Runner together, and before we went into it, I said that movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and when I think about how much went on in that movie, and I'm just using that as an example because it's fresh in my mind right now, but thinking about how much happened in that movie over that course of time, that movie, I will admit, did fly by. And then I try to apply that to how much we're getting in this, which is just so above and beyond the amount of characters and action in that movie. You need at least 2 hours and 30 minutes to tell this story well and in a satisfying way, where Infinity War ends, and yes, we know we're getting another Avengers movie, but I want a satisfying story in this one first movie.
But at what point does the mouse come in and say, we need to make money here, we need a lot of screenings, we can't have this movie being 3.5 hours because we need as many replays as possible? Are you happy or are you satisfied if you hear a 2.5 hour runtime for Infinity War?
I think especially with the 76 characters, 2.5 hours seems just about right. 3 hours is going to be a little bit too long for me to sit on my butt.
I would love to sit on my butt for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Rocha?
Who are these people? You guys watch Lord of the Rings for 3 hours. Don't come crying to me about having to watch a superhero movie for 3 hours. Don't you come crying to me. You sit in that chair and you enjoy it. But no, I think 2.5 hours is perfectly fine because they're splitting it over two movies.
Yeah.
If it was one movie, then I think 2:45 would have been great. And I agree with you about Justice League. I think that's where we really lost a lot of love for that movie. If they had let it be 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think people would have been more satisfied in the long run.
It's tough. I mean, you had Batman v Superman, and people said that was too long, and then they released an even longer cut, and people said that was better, and then the studio's like, well, no, we need to cut it down, and then this time the fans are like, well, no, this time we wanted to see it more. It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to movies that are in theaters this weekend. These are not, as far as we know, 2.5 hour movies, although I will agree with Perri. Maze Runner, The Death Cure, movie flew by. I was really impressed. Job well done, everybody. 2 flicks opening up. The first one is 12 Strong. That is the story of Captain Mitch Nelson in the wake of September 11th leads the United States Special Forces team into Afghanistan for an extremely dangerous mission. Once together, the soldiers develop an uneasy partnership with the Northern Alliance to take down the Taliban and its al-Qaeda allies. Outgunned and outnumbered, Nelson and his forces face overwhelming odds in a fight against a ruthless enemy that takes no prisoners. We also have Den of Thieves. An elite unit from the L.A. County Sheriff's Department squares off against a crew of successful thieves who plan a seemingly impossible heist, the city's Federal Reserve Bank. That stars 50 Cent and Geostorm's own Gerard Butler. Rocha, which movie are you going to see this weekend?
Man, this is a tough decision. But this is why I have Movie Pass, so I can see both. But if I got to choose one.
Okay. All right. He's
Den of
thinking.
Thieves. as much as because I got a terrible love for Gerard Butler playing badass in movies.
So do I.
I
Yes.
went
What
to
it
see.
is.
I've seen Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen, both in the theaters. Saw Geostorm in the theaters. But he doesn't get enough credit for carrying these what would normally be straight to DVD films, and he brings them to life in what he does. For lack of a better term, he brings them to life. Has a great time. I've been looking forward to Den of Thieves since the first trailer, because essentially it's Heat Part 2. It's essentially Heat all over again. The blueprint is basically the same, so it'll be fun. And Pablo Schreiber, I love him. Orange, New Black, numerous things. 12 Strong is probably going to be great as well. It's getting good reviews. But Den of Thieves, I'd love to just like turn off sometimes and have a blast watching a badass action flick. So that appeals to me.
I'm going to vote for Den of Thieves as well. I'm probably going to go check that out tonight. Perry, we going to see it together with Rocha, or are we going to 12 Strong?
I genuinely want to see both movies. I know what's going to happen. I'm only going to have time for one of them. And even though I'm looking forward to both of them, and I'll probably catch the other eventually, this weekend it's probably going to be about 12 Strong for me. I think those trailers were really effective. The visuals looked great. And the idea of picking something that's based on a true important story, more so than the other one, I think that's what's tipping the scale a little for me. But I really want to see that one.
Okay, Rocha, do me a favor, though. When we go to the movie theater tonight, you're going to be tempted to go to 12 Strong with Perry. You're sticking with me.
Yeah, aren't these two? Is Gerard Aussie? Is he an Aussie as well? So these are two Aussies going at it.
George, not,
He's not-
I
he's
don't
not
think he's
Aussie?
I don't
Australian.
believe he's Australian, no.
Is
I
he
think he's-
English?
I think he's British.
Scottish.
Scottish.
Yeah.
Scottish.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Scottish. All
Wendy,
right,
which
fair.
movie are you going to see, the Scot or the Australian?
Oh man, hard pick. And luckily for Movie Pass, this is what's gonna happen. Friday night, Den of Thieves.
Yeah.
Saturday night, 12 Strong. Sunday, Paddington 2.
There you go.
Paddington
Boom.
2.
Paddington 2 is delightful.
I know
I don't
it's
know why
last
it's
week,
not
but-
doing better here, but it
So
should be.
cute.
Everybody
But-
should see Paddington 2.
I am very excited for Den of Thieves. It's kind of like what you said, Rocha, like to kind of turn off your brain and just enjoy like a
Yeah.
good shootout movie. Like I love Gerard Butler in these roles, these like very rough around the edges type. Like he does it so well. Maybe it's the voice, maybe it's the accent, maybe it's the fact that he's Scottish. But I love him in these roles and whatever. Like that's why it's part of the reason why I went and saw Geostorm. I was like, yeah, okay, it was not good, but I
Right.
still saw it anyways.
Yeah, I really hope Den of Thieves is good. I'm a little concerned that it's going to be like 999 was last, because 999 was a movie. I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, this looks so good. And so hopefully Den of Thieves is better. We're counting on you, and we'll have a review hopefully later on this week, which I guess would put the deadline at tomorrow. We're going to move on to agree or disagree. Our first story comes from The Hollywood Reporter. Jessica Chastain and Octavia Spencer are teaming up for the first time since their Oscar-nominated and winning roles in The Help. The trade reports that Chastain and Spencer have signed on to star in an original script about two women attempting to make it home for Christmas. In a movie that is being described as in the vein of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Chastain will also produce the movie, which is now untitled. A release date has yet to be determined. Rocha, Jessica Chastain and Octavia Spencer, are they the right team to be reinvigorating Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Absolutely. I love this. I love them both, and I enjoy watching them in just about it. It's like Zero Dark 30. She's fantastic. I just saw Molly's Game a couple weeks ago. Loved her in Molly's Game. That movie needs to be getting more love than it is getting, and her performance in that film is extraordinary, just extraordinary. And Octavia Spencer, this is a woman who has paid her dues in this business as an African American woman. Roles are not easy to come by. She has played numerous status in terms of like hierarchy, these different roles that she's played, from maids to being in charge of stuff. Hidden Figures, she was incredible in Hidden Figures. So put them together, and they play these serious roles, but they do. It's nice for Jessica to take the edge off a little bit and play some comedy. It's nice to see her play a little bit of comedy, and they had great rapport in The Help. Great rapport. They're one of the sweetest parts of The Help. So to see them coming together to maybe recreate one of my favorite films, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, that John Hughes ever did, bar none, is a great combination. And it goes along with what Jessica was saying, that she wants to make good on her promise to deliver more projects for women about women. So this all these things combine to make me excited for it.
And it's in the vein of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
Right,
but it's not part two. It's not a remaking.
Right.
They're not going to call it Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Is it too close to that movie, Wendy, or do you think it's about time we get another version of that flick?
I think it's about time we do a little revamp for this, and I am so excited because these two ladies are phenomenal. I have loved every single movie that Octavia Spencer has been in. I had the pleasure of meeting Jessica Chastain just this past weekend at the Los Angeles Online Film Critics Awards, and she is just this amazing woman, and you kind of hang on to her every word because she's so well spoken, and she is hilarious. She was great. There's such great moments with the two, they're pairing in The Help, and I can't believe this is like the second movie that they've worked on together since The Help, but I'm looking forward to it.
Perri, here comes the agree or disagree portion of this segment.
no.
Agree or disagree with the fact that this should be a holiday movie?
I'll disagree. I think you could have this kind of scenario play out for something other than a holiday if they
This
wanted.
is totally a
but
holiday movie. This is a movie you're
could
trying to get
be.
home for Christmas. You get the Christmas feel. You put some Christmas music in there. You don't want to see that crap in July.
I think that is a wonderful pitch right there, and it could play very, very well. But does this scenario need to play out so they could rush home for a holiday? No, it could be some other, reason of urgency for them to get wherever they're going. But I hear something like this, and my mind immediately goes to other actors and actresses I admire that headline a studio-level comedy that winds up being stupid and not funny. And I get a little nervous because, like you guys, I admire both of them, and I don't want to see it go that direction. The thing that I'm holding on to in this story is the fact that Jessica Chastain wrote the treatment with I forget her name, but she works with her at Jessica Chastain's production company.
Kelly Carmichael.
Yes, and she's going to be a producer on this. That excites me. If she is not necessarily steering the ship like a director might, but if she is one of the top dogs on this project and she's putting that much of her own work and her own time and effort behind it, I have a good feeling there is a reason besides it just being, one of those broad, unfunny studio level comedies that I've seen too many times before and don't like.
Hot Pursuit.
Well, I will say the first actress that came to my mind when I started thinking of that scenario is Reese Witherspoon is freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you seen Big Little Lies, then Wild, and every other great movie she's been in? And then you have stuff like that, and it's what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hot Pursuit should not be released at any time during the 12-month period in our calendar, but this has to be a holiday movie, right? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was about Thanksgiving, came out November 25th, 1987. Rocha, this is a holiday movie.
Yeah.
Please tell me. Somebody here agrees with me.
Yes, absolutely. This is great. And you know what? There's a phrase, Christmas in July. There's a phrase because you start to get that
That
weird.
was a Rudolph and Frosty thing.
Is everything I say going to be an issue for you today? Because I just want to be happy and agree with you on everything.
Thank you for my Noah's Bagels iced tea.
There you go. No, Christmas. People have said the phrase, and every once in a while you hear Christmas music creep on in July in some of these radio stations, just occasionally, and then you're like, oh yeah, because it gets you excited. You hit that halfway mark in the year, and you're like, oh yeah. You want to feel happy about things again, and then at Christmas, and then you get a little bit, and it carries you over till 6 months later. You can enjoy it. So I'm happy to enjoy a Christmas movie in July. Why not?
I don't want to disagree with you again, but when have you ever heard Christmas music played in July?
Multiple times.
What? Where?
I
Where'd
will
you
hear.
go?
I will hear the Mariah Carey one in July every once in a while. The people will drop it. Absolutely.
Because you're playing it?
Oh, that might be it. It might be on my iPod. No, it's because these radio stations play it. I'm telling you.
I want to like
People
check-
do car sales. People did car sales a few years ago, Christmas in July. They did all these car sales, reducing the prices of Christmas prices and stuff. So people take advantage of it. It is a phrase. But, you can make fun of me all you want. I don't care. I stand by the things I say.
Okay, I'll try not to disagree with you in this next topic, and hopefully it goes better than Christmas music being played in July. That is the first trailer has been released for the upcoming thriller starring Daniel Radcliffe. The movie is called Beast of Burden, and unfortunately, no, there is no Rolling Stones tune, at least in the trailer. Radcliffe stars as Sean Haggerty, a pilot forced to make one last delivery of good old cocaine across the United States-Mexico border, and during the troubled flight, he finds himself caught between the cartel and the DEA, which is promising to help his sick wife. The movie is set for release on February 23rd. Wendy, do you buy, do you sell, do you agree, do you disagree with this statement? Daniel Radcliffe can open a movie not named Harry Potter.
Oh man, let's just put this out there. I love Harry Potter, and I loved him as Harry Potter, but I gotta disagree with it. I can't see him being able to pull it. And maybe it's just a personal thing. I can't distinguish and separate him from his Harry Potter role and any other role. But when I watch other movies that he's been in, for example, Woman in Black and like Horns, the movie, I have to do this for Horns. But like all I could see was Harry Potter speaking in a different accent and all grown up and reciting different lines. But like it's just not as inviting to me. It's not attractive.
See, I can see him not as Harry Potter, but I'm not sure that I see him as like a leading man. He was great in the Farting Corpse movie. The name is
Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army Man.
He was
That
great.
was pretty good.
He was, albeit just playing a corpse. So, do you agree with Wendy that you can only see him as Harry Potter, or can you see
No.
him in other roles now?
Oh, I could totally see him in other roles. He's one of the actors that really popped in a major film franchise and is going on to do other things that excites me more than anything. I think he is an exceptional leading man, and not just because Harry Potter gave him the boost he needed to get roles like maybe this or to sign on to whatever project he wants, but because he's really freaking talented. I think Horns he was great in. That movie was a little underrated, in my opinion. Swiss Army Man is a great movie too, and he just takes. I also really actually liked Woman in Black. I take that back. I didn't love Woman in Black overall as much as I would have liked to, but I think he was a great lead in that movie and did a lot with not as much as he needed to make that movie super special. Then again, though, that movie did wind up making a lot of money. But then I look at this. And it might have been a good, interesting decision for him at the time. This trailer is awful. I felt nothing during this trailer. Nothing. No sense of tension, excitement. I wasn't worried for him. It's ugly looking. It's ugly. When
It's very
I was
darkly shot.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
when I was prepping for this, because we look at the Collider.com links, and I read I think it might have been Matt Goldberg who wrote it up. He's like, it looks very dark. It's not even just that it's very dark. All the images in this trailer are dark, and they're also just not shot in an interesting, dynamic way. And when you're trying to sell a thriller like this, that's a major problem. And I don't think it helps that American Made tackles similar subject matter, and that thing was freaking fun and vibrant and filled with energy, and I really love that movie. It just so much more than I ever expected to. So this to me looks like it is going to be a blip on the radar. I probably won't see it. I don't think many people will.
All Daniel Radcliffe Wants for Christmas is a hit, Rocha. Do you agree with Perri that this is just going to be a blip on the radar and come and go fairly quietly?
Yes, I agree with Perri completely. The important thing
I'm
is
going
that
to cut
in
that
the
out
southern
of the show
Oh,
and walk around with that little clip. That's going to be my new ringtone, actually. Is that okay with you?
totally okay. But what's really important is in the southern hemisphere, they celebrate Christmas in July. Australia, New Zealand, Paraguay, and South Africa. They're called midwinter because the seasons are reversed. So what happens in the Hallmark Channel, they run blocks of their original Christmas television films in July. This is the thing.
Oh,
but
okay.
this trailer looks terrible. American Made already did it, and I love Daniel Radcliffe because when he broke out to do Equus, when he did the play, that's when you knew this is an actor who really wants to pursue more than just. Kristen Stewart is the same way. Like, I dismissed her with those Twilight movies, didn't think she was going. And then you see Personal Shopper. You see what's the one she did?
Clouds of Sils Maria.
Yes, Clouds of Sils Maria, which is fantastic. You see, and then you begrudgingly come to that, and you see that these actors, they start out where they start out. It doesn't mean that's where they need to end up. And the ones that really want to do it, put the effort in, find the scripts, go backwards through the independent stuff, and build themselves back up. And I think Daniel's trying to do this, and all respect him to do this. But you know, he might not make all the right steps at the right time, but at least he's trying something different, and I respect that.
I want to remind you guys at the end of the show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. I didn't disagree with you all.
There you go.
I totally agree with everything you just said for the most part. You guys can tweet us at Collider, video hashtag Collider Movie Talk. In the meantime, we're going to move on to our last agree or disagree in lieu of mailbag because it's a really good one. Collider.com recently put up a list of the 29 most rewatchable movies of all time as voted on by the Collider.com staff. And I got a chance to check out the article this morning. I really applaud them for the effort that it took to put together the most rewatchable movies of all time, the ones that you can keep throwing them on and you keep getting something new, something fresh. You love the experience of repeat viewings. However, we all have opinions, and some of us are going to disagree very heavily on a couple of the movies. Some of us want to take some movies off that list. Some of us want to add them. You can check out the list at Collider.com when you got a chance to. Is there a movie that you really agree with, the one that you really disagree with, or is there a movie that you love that needs to be on that list?
I have something to say on all of those points. It was hard to pick out like one movie specifically because there was a lot of movies that I did agree with that are on that list. But one that I know I watch every year like clockwork around Christmas time is Elf. I am so, I quote that movie. There is a...
You watch it in July?
I could watch it in July, I guess, Rocha. But I do, so I'm happy that that's on the list. I don't understand why Magic Mike XXL is on this list. Is it fun? Is it entertaining? If you like Channing Tatum, his dance moves, sure. just don't see, like, if you're watching, you're saying this is the most rewatchable movies list. Magic Mike, get it out of there. And instead of Magic Mike, let's slide in a Disney movie. Not a single Disney movie is on that list, but you put Miyazaki films on there, which is fantastic. But you don't put a single Disney movie on there. I mean, Aladdin is an all-time favorite, and time to time I pop that movie in.
So you're going Aladdin, Rocha. I think the Magic Mike XXL is the closest that we get on this list to a sports movie. I know you took some issue with that.
Yeah, there's no sports movies on this list. Listen, I love this. Look, mad respect to you all to putting this list together. It could not have been easy. And 29 is an interesting number to come to, but there's no sports movies. Rocky 3 and 4 are eminently rewatchable. Hoosiers is eminently rewatchable. And you want comedies, Major League is eminently rewatchable. So you watch those over. So I would move out Magic Mike as well, but I would also move out Band of Outsiders or Harold and Maude. No one is getting together to watch Harold and Maude over and over again. I'm sorry. No, I get it that it's cool film, Bud Cort and all that jazz, but like, it's not people aren't getting together to watch Band of Outsiders either, but people will sit down and you'll watch over and over again Hoosiers with your buddies, or you watch Major League over and over again, or even Terminator 2 or Empire Strikes Back. Where's the Star Wars stuff? Or Star Trek 2. Wrath of Khan. Where's Wrath of Khan? That's eminently rewatchable.
Harold and Maude is one of the great love stories of our time.
Yeah.
That's a quote from a movie that I think should be on the list over Harold and Maude, and that is There's Something About Mary. I need more comedies, and I love spoof comedies. I find them endlessly rewatchable, so I would throw Naked Guns in there, Top Secret, Airplane, Hot Shots, something in that vein. Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein. I love me a good spoof movie, and I'll agree with you on sports as well. White Men Can't Jump is one of the most rewatchable movies. Even if the basketball scenes don't always hold up, maybe we don't do the crab dribble like Wesley Snipes used to do. It still works for me. The storyline, everything about that flick, Woody and Wesley together. Perri Nemiroff, do you agree or disagree with the bulk of this list?
I agree with it. You know what? I agree with every single item on this list because the way it was put together, this isn't a ranking. It's not like this is the number one most rewatchable movie at all time. And if you read this list, each blurb was written by a different person. And when it comes to rewatchable movies, I think that speaks to the person you are, your specific taste more so than anything. It's not just looking at it and saying, this is the best for this specific reason. These are movies that resonate with the individual, and in that way I respect every single choice that was made on this list. If I was curating the entire thing, one of the first things I did peg was Magic Mike Double XL. Why not just take that off the list and put Magic Mike in there? Because I think Magic Mike is the far superior movie. And a perfect example of what I was just explaining is The Matrix. So I'm not the biggest Matrix fan. I like The Matrix. It's solid, but that is not a wildly rewatchable movie for me. Whereas I look at, okay, Jurassic Park, and okay, here's another great example, Mean Girls. We were talking about Mean Girls before we even started the show. For someone who grew up in the 90s, that and is a lady, that movie is highly rewatchable, whereas a guy like this,
a man who grew up in the 80s.
It's not rewatchable.
When
for
Harry
him.
Met Sally is more rewatchable than Mean Girls.
Romantic comedies, I mean, look, I find romantic comedies endlessly rewatchable. You give me some Sleepless in Seattle, you give me some You've Got Mail, When Harry Met Sally. I love all those movies. I will agree with Perri. I don't think The Matrix is as rewatchable as you're making it.
You're
up.
both insane. I would watch The Matrix before I'd ever watch Jurassic Park again.
Oh.
I would so watch The Matrix.
He did that on purpose.
No, it's not true.
He did that on
Absolutely
purpose.
true. The Matrix is so rewatchable, and even more so because the 2 and 3 are terrible. So, I love The Matrix to pieces. I don't get, never mind.
You're getting a lot of great comments right now online from all you guys. A lot of people saying Gremlins. I saw the name Gremlins pop up a number of times. Debbie Schechter just tweeted us and said, what about 2004's Miracle? That one is on her list, another great sports movie. So you guys can check out that list at collider.com right now. My favorite picks that they did have on there, Shawshank Redemption, which I didn't get into until after college, but my college roommates watched that ad nauseum every day. Another one that they loved watching was Big Lebowski. That is also on the list. And maybe my favorite movie to watch on cable, not named Jaws, which again should be on the list, is A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men is such a great quote. Never get into a quote fight with Freddie Prinze Jr. about A Few Good Men because you're going to lose. Sorry I had to drop that name. He's really, really good. You're a lousy softball player. Okay, we're going to move on to our Twitter segment, but not before I remind you guys to subscribe right here for all the latest and greatest of the vids we have here in Collider Video, including Jedi Council is going to be up later today. So make sure you guys keep an eye on that. And the Movie Trivia Schmodown, the season starts in a couple weeks, and the award show is going to be next Friday. Mark your calendars right now. You are not going to want to miss it. We move on to our Twitter questions, and the first one comes to us from Chris Woodburn. He says, "You rock, Ellis." And over under 50% that Venom is going to appear in Avengers 4. So not Infinity War, but the next Avengers movie. John Schnepp breaking scoops left and right this week saying that there's a very good potentiality that Peter Parker, Tom Holland, is going to be in the Venom movie in some at least cameo form. So could that portend to have Venom appear in the fourth Avengers movie? You're nodding your head.
Yeah, I say over 50% the symbiote. The symbiote will appear. Maybe not Eddie Brock as Venom, but certainly the symbiote costume that will become Venom could appear.
I don't want to hear costume. I want to hear Tom Hardy. Is he going to be in?
No.
Not
Oh, in Avengers 4, the
Yeah.
second one.
Yeah.
Yes, I think absolutely over 50%.
over 50%. How you
Oh,
feeling?
I am definitely disagreeing with that. Going under, I know that we had specifics in terms of what this Marvel Sony deal meant, months and months ago, but that doesn't mean it's set in stone and permanent for the rest of the film franchise's existences. That deal can change, but I don't think it will ever change to the extent where they start to mush them together that much, because even though they are sharing Spider-Man, I think it is highly important to both studios that are businesses and in competition with each other that Sony establishes something that is separate from the MCU.
Okay, tied at 1 each. Over under, Wendy, 50% that Tom Hardy as Venom is going to appear in Avengers 4.
I love to see him in it, or at least a symbiote suit, but I'm going to go with Perri on this one. I don't think that we're going to see an appearance from Venom, just because exactly what you said about the Sony deal. And this is very much Sony and like less Marvel, even though it's a Marvel character. So I don't think so.
Yeah, it's complicated because you had Spider-Man and he's being shared right now by Sony and Marvel, and then you have Venom, which is being pretty much just Sony, but it's a Marvel Comics character. Here's my logic, is that if you're going to have upwards of 76 characters in Infinity War, you need to add more characters in Avengers 4. There's not that many people out there. Get Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's going to be in the movie just because we need another actor to throw in there. Why not have him appear as Venom? I'm going over 50%. I'm going all the way to 60%. Perri Nemiroff.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Nana? I love you. I know she agrees because me and Nana, huge Venom fans. Our next question comes from Maya Patton. She says that she's not interested in Infinity War at all, but everyone else is. Is there another major release that's coming out this year that everyone else seems to be interested in, but you just could not care less? Yes, Maya. And that answer is Mary Poppins 2.
Oh.
Could not care less about it. Some of the market material I've seen looks okay. It's warmed my heart just a tiny bit, but no. My heart has not grown 3 sizes on that movie. Do not care about Mary Poppins 2. Perri, what do you not care about?
I can't name anything because
You just love movies.
being so nice
true.
to
That
Perri
is
does
the
love movies.
that is the issue, though.
Sorry.
Whether it is something I am naturally drawn to, like let's say a Jurassic World, or an Avengers movie, or maybe a Han Solo movie. It doesn't matter. I have my eye on every big release that's coming out this year for one reason or another. I will say that when it comes to my most anticipated, one of the bigger ones, and I'm not just saying it because you just said it, but I will admit that Mary Poppins is a little less appealing to me than something like, let's say, a Lion King or Aladdin. I'm just not as excited for that movie as I was for, let's say, Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, could not care less about Mary Poppins, but yeah, I'm still a Disney shill. John Rocha, what do you not care about that everybody's so excited to see?
You both are taking the easy way out. It's easy to not care about Mary Poppins. It's been 50 years since we've seen a Mary Poppins, 60 years. I don't care about Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. Like, I am not in any way excited. And that trailer did nothing to get me more excited about it. So I am not excited to see what's going to happen because I didn't like the last one. And so Lost World, whatever it's called.
I'm not excited for Bumblebee, so there.
Okay. It's not a personal
Just
thing,
kidding.
Perri.
I'm really excited for
I'm
It's
sorry,
a
Mom.
little
I'm sorry you have
personal.
to see that, Mama Nems. She gets a little upset sometimes, but Nana Nems. But like this, I just don't. I'm just not excited for it. I'm just not. I know people are thrilled and love this franchise. This has never gotten to me. So
Wendy, we're seeing some names. We're dropping some Mary Poppins, some Bumblebees, some Jurassic Worlds. I saw in the chat room some people saying that they're not excited for Solo, which is fair. I see a lot of people saying that they're not that excited for Tomb Raider, which is interesting. what movie is everybody jacked for that you just could not give a rip?
Well, I don't know if everybody's jacked for this movie, but for me, I'm just not as excited for Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Really?
I'm just not. Like, I maybe it's because I haven't seen the trailer. I saw the movie poster over the weekend when I was at Downtown Disney. I took a picture of it, but I was just like, okay. Like I am like maybe I'm gonna change my tune when by the time the trailer comes out and I'm like, this is the best thing ever, and I'm gonna buy all this Han Solo merchandise and get my tickets in advance and all that. But at this moment right now, like even from when it was announced, I was just like, okay, I'll go see it in theaters because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not like, woohoo, Star Wars, Han Solo.
I heard. I woke up to Twitter this morning. People were saying that there was some Star Wars footage. There's some Han Solo footage that came out of like a Munich thing that Disney was doing, and they said it was awesome. I have no idea if it's real or not, but they said that they saw it and they said it was awesome. So there you go. That's your scoop. I don't break them. I just report them. We have one more question. This comes from Karen Karsgaard. Says, if you could only watch movies from one actor or actress for the rest of time, which actor or actress are you taking? Karen is taking Mark Ruffalo for the quality and diversity of genres. I can kick off with an easy answer because if you look at my top 10 movies, there's a lot of Star Wars, there's a lot of Indiana Jones. I'm going to take Harrison Ford. You also get some Jack Ryan thrillers in there. You also get some What Lies Beneath. You get some touching dramas. You get a Witness. You get a Regarding Henry. Harrison Ford is the easy answer. I also might take Michael Keaton. I might snatch up Michael Keaton because if you're looking at diversity of roles, some interesting material, you get your Batmans, your Beetlejuice, you also get stuff like Birdman. Michael Keaton is one of the funniest people that I've ever seen in movies, and he's also one of the best actors I've ever seen in movies. So either one of those two, I will be hoggish and take two right off the bat. Wendy, do you have anybody on your mind?
I do, and luckily you didn't take mine. Gary Oldman. With Gary Oldman, I will get Fifth Element. I will get The Dark Knight. Not so much The Hitman's Bodyguard because I didn't like that, so I won't be watching it. But he's just a phenomenal actor, and he's not just one like genre specific. Like he's not just like drama. Like he does a little bit. There's a little bit of comedy as we see in The Fifth Element, and I could watch The Dark Knight over and over again. Okay,
that's a smart choice because Gary Oldman can lead a movie, but he can also just be in a movie like The Dark Knight, so you get your Batmans that way. Perri Nemiroff, who you got?
So obviously I had to start at the top and look at Jurassic Park. It's a fun kind of 6 degrees game going on here where I'm just trying to weigh all the different people in Jurassic Park and think which has the best resume where I'd want to watch and rewatch. And I jumped from Jeff Goldblum to Laura Dern, but I settled on Samuel L. Jackson because I get my Jurassic Park, get a little Kingsman in there. I've got Unbreakable. I've got Pulp Fiction. I'm pretty sure I just won this, actually.
I think Perri might have won the game here with the Samuel L. Jackson call, unless Rocha from way downtown.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay.
Because I get him in a multiple variety of things, from Mission Impossible to Punch Drunk Love, Red Dragon. We get him in these like smaller films that he'd done. He did Moneyball. He did The Master. He did Charlie Wilson's War, Almost Famous, The Talented Mr. Ripley, Big Lebowski, Boogie Nights. So I get everything. I'm covered across the board, romantic comedy wise, classic wise, funny black comedies like Big Lebowski, and you get action films. So. And then art house films, Synecdoche, New York. So there's a number of things I get covered with Philip Seymour Hoffman. But Tom Hanks is who I would really choose. But Philip Seymour Hoffman is the one that covers all over the place.
You know, I disagree with you a lot on this show. For the last 45 minutes, you and I didn't see eye to eye a whole lot. And I'll tell you this. It's not going to start now because Samuel L. Jackson's probably the best call. I think that's the best call over Philip Seymour Hoffman. Maybe even over Harrison Ford. But Harrison Ford, I'm pretty happy getting my Star Wars and Indiana Jones. So that's going to do it for us here today on Collider Movie Talk. Thank you guys for tuning in. Huge shout out to the production crew behind the scenes, as well as everybody up here with me. For Wendy Lee, Perri Nemiroff, and John, the Outlaw Rocha, I am merely at Mark Ellis Live. We'll see you guys tomorrow for an all-new episode of Movie Talk on Friday. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.